In today's mental health check, we're going to look forward to Mother's Day on this Sunday, and we're going to tackle kind of an important issue that people don't talk about very much, mom guilt.
Yeah, we don't talk about it, but we do feel it. It is the guilt we moms sometimes experience when we feel we're just not doing enough for our kids. Well, this is interesting. It turns out that feeling that way can actually be a good thing if we learn to use it properly.
I'm interested. Joining us now is women's career coach Elizabeth Pearson. Elizabeth, thanks for being with us. So, I mean, we're both moms. We understand what mom guilt is. How does it affect our mental health? What are the signs for those who aren't moms?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I'm really excited to talk to a couple of super working moms. I think you guys are excellent role models. But I think some signs that maybe it can be impacting your mental health is it impacting your work function? Do you feel like maybe you're kind of half in, half out when you are away from your children? Another big one is, are you letting some of your basic needs go to the side? Are you not maybe showering as much or getting your hair done or things like that because you feel so guilty about being away from your children and you want to be with them as much as possible when you're not working?
Yeah, and that self-doubt or feeling of inadequacy, that's a red flag too. Elizabeth, we talked about, you said that there is a good side to mom guilt. How can we actually use these feelings to our advantage?
I think there's a great side to mom guilt with everything, right? You can have a different perspective on it. And I think that we can choose to see it as a wonderful reminder that it's really important that we take care of ourselves and we prioritize our happiness, because if we are just living for our children, not only does that put a ton of pressure on them, but when you deteriorate yourself, we're setting an example for them of a certain standard, right? So if mom has a nice high standard for herself, meaning she has a great job, she has a great relationship, she takes care of her physical and mental health, then that is what our children are going to watch us set as a model for them, and they're going to believe that they should have the same standards for themselves. But if we're a mom that's really deprioritizing herself all the time, we risk our children growing up to deprioritize themselves in their relationships and in their careers.
That's powerful.
Yeah, that's a really powerful thing to say. What are some things that we can do, though? There is such a thing as too much mom guilt, right? What are some things what do we do to lessen that feeling?
Absolutely. I think first, give ourselves a break. Someone beautifully explained to me when I was a younger mom with young kids, they said there will be others. And this was other recitals, other, things at school, things that I had missed every time that I was on a work trip. You guys know with travel, every time I would back out of the driveway, I would start to well up a little bit. And then one day I asked my husband, I said, well, don't you cry a little every time you leave to go on a work trip? And he very frankly looked at me and he said, no, I don't. He goes, I know that when I'm away, beating myself up and having a really hard time and feeling guilty doesn't help you at home with the kids. So I think if we just remind ourselves that if we can take that time to ourselves, we're actually going to be a better mom when we do return. Nobody wins if you go away and you have a terrible trip. Last time I was in New York, I'm like, I feel bad that I'm here, but I'm just going to enjoy it because it's not helping my kids to have a sad mommy when she's gone and then also a sad mommy when she gets back.
Yeah. I love that. Hashtag no more sad mommy. We're taking a page from your husband's book. And that was my other question, is just like, why isn't dad guilt a thing? And I'm not saying that we should want them to have the same problem, but it just isn't. And I mean, your husband said, no, I don't feel sad.
No, I mean, I think part of it is biological, right? I mean, we grew these little humans most of the time, like in our bodies. And I feel that just our nature is to be more nurturing and maternal. But I really think that we have to remind ourselves. I mean, I don't know how many trips I was on, and the men there were not asked how their children were, you know, whereas when we're away, it feels like a natural question for people to say, who's taking care of your children while you're here? I think that we need to change some of the conditioning that's out there as well. It's not inappropriate to ask about a person's child, but I think we should be asking the men the same questions of, if you're here, who's at home with the kids? You know, it needs to be a little bit more level because they're not feeling that pressure. So no, they don't have those guilt pangs when they leave the house like we do.
I love that.
I'm sitting here thinking of all the times, though, that I did feel sad, you know? So I don't know. Final thought, how do we work through, just in a thought, how do we work through it?
I think we support each other as moms. I see a lot of mom-on-mom crime out there is what I call it. A lot of people saying, oh, you're going on another trip, or oh, you're going out with your girlfriends. And it might not be, you know, something that is conscious that we're trying to make each other feel bad, but I think we just need to embrace each other a little more and we'll all feel much better.
Elizabeth Pearson, thanks so much.